Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and I'd like to apologize at the outset. I haven't been putting up too much of content off late, which is largely because I switched jobs in 2018 and it's been a very busy second half of 2018 for me. But I'm back and I have been monitoring a lot of messages and a lot of comments in the last few months, and I've managed to identify a few places where a lot of you need help. A few common questions that a lot of you are asking, a few common queries that a lot of you have. So let's dive right into our question for today, which is how do I select a flying school? Alright, so this video applies to student pilots anywhere in the world. You could be an Indian student pilot, you could be an EASA student pilot, you could be an FAA student pilot, or a Malaysia DCA student pilot. This video or this vlog would apply to any one of you because the decision-making process in choosing a flying school anywhere in the world is largely the same. To be absolutely fair, the question that gets asked the most on comments and in messages is not really how do I choose a flying school, but which flying school do I go to? Or which is the cheapest flying school? Or which is the most budget-friendly flying school? The problem is I can't name flying schools and I will not name flying schools. And as a lot of you probably already know, if you ask me this question, I always respond by telling you I cannot name specific flying schools. Watch this vlog right to the end and you will know exactly why I do that. Also, a quick word of advice: if you are one of my Indian followers, you might want to watch this video in conjunction with another video I've put up about whether to do your flying training in India or abroad. I'm going to put a link down in the description and I'm going to flash a card somewhere up here. Watch the video in conjunction with that one, and as always, watch this video in conjunction with the blog. All you need to know about becoming a commercial pilot. I'm going to put a link down in the description and flash a link on screen. Alright, let's assume there are three kinds of flying schools. One that is out in the middle of nowhere, hundreds of miles away from a big city. The second being relatively closer to a big city, and the third being in a big city. Why I say big city is because large cities or large metropolitan regions generally tend to have a domestic or international airport, which is where most of the commercial airline activity is happening. The idea behind keeping yourself close to a large metropolitan area is in order for you to be exposed to commercial airline traffic. Never lose sight of the fact that we are all training to be commercial pilots, which means we are eventually going to fly airplanes like the Boeing 737 or the Airbus A320 or the ATR 72. It's important for you to keep yourself close to this kind of traffic in order to be exposed to the way commercial operations happen. In order for you to understand the way traffic management is done, in order for you to understand the way these airplanes communicate with each other and with controllers, and that will expose you a lot better to commercial aviation in general and get you a lot more prepared for that airline selection process. Yes, I do agree there are definite advantages to being located out in the middle of nowhere because it's uncontrolled airspace, there aren't any controllers, there isn't any commercial traffic around you, there isn't the concept of priority. You are the most important airplane there and you can fly many more hours in a day, as opposed to being at a large commercial airport or close to a commercial airport wherein you aren't really priority traffic. Priority traffic is scheduled traffic like an airliner or a military airplane. But the exposure you receive and the learning that can be done at a large airport far outweighs an airport which is out in the middle of nowhere. So you want to strike a balance. You want to be able to keep yourself, if not at a large commercial airport, close to a large commercial airport. So when you fly out of your airport, you are exposed to a little bit of these commercial aviation concepts. Always remember that a lot of flying schools that are out in the middle of nowhere will pitch this as a positive and tell you it's an advantage to be out in the middle of nowhere since there's a lot more flying and you can finish your flying a lot faster. But there's absolutely no point finishing your flight training faster if the learning is a lot lesser than it would be at a commercial airport. The 3 to 6 months extra you spend at a large commercial airport are not going to make much of a difference to your career, but it will afford you the opportunity to learn a lot more as compared to a smaller airport. Which brings us to our next point of contemplation: cost. Cost is really important. You don't want to spend too little and you don't want to spend too much. Depending on the kind of flying school you go to, you could be flying a Cessna 152, a Cessna 172, a 182, a DA-20, a DA-40, depending on the kind of single engine and multi-engine fleet they have. There are a few institutes in the world that will enamor you with how beautiful and advanced their airplanes are and charge you extra for that. All you need is a basic trainer like a Cessna 152 or a Cessna 172 or even a DA-20 for that matter, which teaches you the basics of flying, the basics of aerodynamics, and allows you to learn a few procedures as well. Let me give you an example for some of you who know a little more about avionics. Most of the Cessna 172s in the world today are equipped with the standard 6-pack instrument set. But some of them have also got the Garmin G1000 avionics set, which is a beautiful system, undoubtedly. But is it really required at this point? Is it required during basic flight training? I seriously doubt it. So if you do have a flying institute that's trying to sell you the concept of spending all your 200 hours on an airplane equipped with a Garmin G1000 at an extra cost, Try to minimize that cost by spending some of your hours on the Garmin G1000 airplane and the remaining on a conventional airplane, because it won't do you much good to fly all your 200 hours on a Garmin G1000 airplane at the extra cost. Let's get back to location for a moment, my friends. You could be in a situation where a flying school situated out in the middle of nowhere offers you flight training at a much lesser cost than a flying school associated with a commercial airport or close to a commercial airport. Think very carefully about the money you save placing yourself out in the middle of nowhere, because you may save a few bucks putting yourself out in the middle of nowhere, but your learning experience will be a lot more inferior than somebody training at a commercial airport. Now let's come to what I consider one of the most important parameters to judge a flying school on: the people. Guys, every single time you ask me which is the best flying school to go to, how many times do you remember me telling you to go and ask a recent graduate from the flying school whether it's a good place to go to or not? It has a lot to do with the people at that flying school. A flying school is nothing but a runway and a couple of airplanes and an apron and a few buildings. It's nothing but infrastructure. What makes the flying school a good place to go to are the people working at that flying school, the staff, the instructors, the chief flying instructor, the ground instructors. If I told you the flying school I went to a few years ago was amazing, and I had a great time, and the flying was quick, and the flying was good, and the learning was good, it may mean absolutely nothing today, because the people at the flying school have changed today. Instructors have moved on, the chief flying instructor has retired, the ground instructors have moved on to various different jobs. When the team working at a flying school changes, the entire ethos of a flying school could possibly change. Which is why I insist every single time you guys want to know about a particular flying school, ask a recent graduate from that flying school, and you'd get a much clearer picture of what are the good flying schools out there today. I hope you now understand why I never directly recommend a particular flying school, because what I say about that flying school may no longer be true about it today. But you can bet somebody who has recently passed out of that flying school would be able to give you a much clearer picture of how nice the people are, how good the quality of training is, and how good the infrastructure is. Guys, summing up everything we've spoken about so far about flying schools and selecting flying schools, money and time are two very important things. You don't want to spend too much of money, and you certainly don't want to prolong your flight training. But do not try to minimize both of these to a very large extent. Flight training is expensive and it takes its time. Concentrate on the learning during your flight training. Don't concentrate on the time, and don't concentrate much on the cost. The most important thing after your flight training is for you to crack that airline selection process and land your first airline or corporate flying job so you can start professionally flying. There's no point hurrying up your course, and there's no point spending too little, as a result of which you'll finish your flight training but you would have learned nothing. The idea is to learn during your flight training whilst keeping cost and time in check. Remember, it's important to log those flying hours to get your commercial pilot's license, but it's extremely important to learn whilst you log your flying hours. Logging those 200 flying hours for your CPL should not be your prime concern. Your prime concern should be the learning. The logging will automatically come. Let's put it this way, logging should simply be a side effect of learning. It should never be the other way around. And wow, I should get a trademark for that. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and if you have any more queries, suggestions, drop them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. As always, remember, watch all of my videos in conjunction with the blog, All You Need to Know About Being a Commercial Pilot. I'm going to put a link down in the description and flash a link on screen. I cannot reiterate this point enough. Please do not use my videos as official training content of any kind. These are largely opinionated videos aimed at giving you a little more insight into flight training. As always, guys, like, comment and subscribe. Share this video with as many aspiring commercial pilots as you can, just like yourself, so we may all bust the myths surrounding commercial pilot training. This is where I leave you today, and I will see you in my next vlog. Bye.